Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, Stay the Hungry Gamer is back with another mini review, and today we're talking about Perseverance Episode 1. I'm not spinning the box, I'm not holding it up because it's a big old box, and I don't know if I can fit it between my face and Dwellings of Eldervale right here. But this is a super mini review because I'm actually only talking about Episode 1 in this video. I'll have another one coming out later on that talks about Episode 2 and kind of how I think both of them kind of come together. But this is a game that Mind Clash Games was kind enough to send me, and it was an odd moment because I was at the Mind Clash booth all the way back at Origins, and I was talking to them and was going to take home a copy of Astra to cover, which I covered a while ago. Very cool game. But they asked me if I wanted to cover Perseverance, and I kind of did, but also it's huge, and I had to tell them, I said, look, I can't do this. I can't take it. I don't know where to put it. I don't have space. And they were kind enough to actually mail one out. Not only that, they mailed out the super fancy deluxe with all the minis and all of that. So thank you to Mind Clash for sending that out. And so what this game is, in the first episode, is it's kind of a tower defense style game. It's not fully tower defense, but it's kind of that idea. Tower defense meets Euro. And what you're doing is you're trying to build up a colony after your ship has crashed on this weird old island that has dinosaurs. Like, it's modern technology, and then there's dinosaurs. And so you're doing this dice placement action where you're putting dice out onto the board in different places, and depending on where you put it, you get access to different resource generation opportunities, or you can send your troops out on patrol or get more troops. And kind of all of these things are going on. And then after you take your main action, you're also going to do a minor action, which might let you build up reputation with some of the officers, put troops out onto the front lines, or send your leader somewhere where they're going to get to do more actions. And now the key here is, I talked about the front lines, because at the top of the board, there is space for dinosaurs to show up. And so what happens is every time you put a die down, it's going to bring in a certain amount of dinosaurs. It might be one, it might be two, it might be a roll of die, you never know what you're going to get, but they're going to go out there. And when the area fills up with dinosaurs, there is a breach. And if you have enough soldiers there between all the players to stop the breach, nothing bad's going to happen, and everybody who participates is going to get some kind of reward, and they'll have to spend some of the resources they've collected to kind of use those rewards, but there is something good you're going to get. However, if any of the dinosaurs get through, and they might, because there's all kinds of things you can do. You might put a trap out there. When you put a trap out there, it's going to be a roll of a die. If it succeeds or not, if you put a wall out there, again, a roll of the die. So you don't always quite know if you're going to be able to fend everything off. But if you do, as I said, you're going to get that benefit. If you don't, then bad things will happen. If a raptor gets through, it's going to take away some of your followers. And followers in the multiplayer game are kind of analogous to points. Or if the trampler gets through, it's going to destroy some of the kind of colony buildings you've built out there. And you're going to kind of play through the game. And after all the dice are drafted, you go into this assembly mode. And various things that you have done will get you more votes. And people with more votes are going to get to cash in on different end-of-round, assembly round scoring opportunities for more followers. Now, with that said, I spent most of my time with the solo variant, though I did play two-handed once or twice because, well, my wife was out of town. This just is a little heavier of a game that she likes to play. In the solo variant, you're still chasing after followers, though it strips away kind of the assembly phase scoring conditions that you can do, and it just is a direct, this many votes translates to this much acceptance. And in the solo game, you're trying to hit a certain basement floor of acceptance and a certain basement floor of followers. And you're playing against 2 AI in order to do this, and you have a very simple card system where you're flipping cards out. It's going to tell you what die they take and where they put the die, and so on and so on. And so you're going to play through 2 or 3 rounds of the game, which is all the dice going out and coming back, and then you're going to see who has the most fun in the solo game if you've met the minimum requirements for a victory. So, what do I like about this game? First off, it's a really pretty game. It looks really, really nice. It's even now, as I said, I got the deluxe version, though the standees also came in the game, and those look pretty darn good too, but the minis are great. The deluxe components are great, but even most of the components in the regular game are really, really nice. And it looks really nice on the table. Also, most of the iconography I found is pretty darn clear. At least once you figure it out. And I say once you figure it out, but I'm going to talk about that when I get to my quibbles later on. The next thing I'll say is I do like the relative ease of making sure you can do what you want. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you can't make a mistake and find where you can't actually pay for what you want to do. But it is pretty easy to always be able to select the action that you want if you're willing to pay the price. And I do like that because this is rolling dice, and the dice do determine a little bit what you're able to do. So I do think that is well done, taking away some of just the, well, dice luck ruined it for everybody, and I think that's very, very clever. But the two things that I like the most are, one, there is a mechanic called patrol, where you're able to put out your die and send some of your soldiers, if you have them, out on patrol. And it means at the end of the round, you're going to get some kind of benefit. And the benefit, you don't know exactly what it's going to be, because often you're drawing these cards. You can draw one card per soldier, and so you have this choice of what you're getting, and it kind of has this mystery of you don't know what you're going to find when you go out there, and there's danger to it. The better the rewards, the more chance that maybe something bad happens and some of your soldiers die. I love the way the patrols work, often to my detriment, especially in the solo game where you really got to make sure you're getting your little settlements out there, but I just love the patrols. I keep going, and I just think it's such a clever, clever mechanic. I really, really, really like that. And then the other thing that I really like is the tower defense part. I think it just works really well that you're constantly seeing these dinosaurs show up. There's only 2 of them, so you don't have to remember too many different things of what they're going to do and how they operate. And along with it, you have your 2 different types of soldiers that will either destroy one thing or destroy 2. And it's very, very easy to do, but the puzzle behind how you're managing these incoming dinos is wonderful, especially when you add in the opportunity to put traps out there. But if you're going to put a trap out there, you got to hope that you can figure it out right to where you're going to be able to trap the right kind of dinosaur. You're putting walls out there, which can give you other bonuses, but also don't always work. And it just really is very, very clever and very satisfying when it goes well, and makes you groan when it goes poorly, but it's not the end of the world if it goes poorly, and I really do like that. The last thing I'll say is I have in the past bounced off of some of the David Turczi solo modes. I've often found them just more complicated than I want to play. All the ones I played have been manageable, but sometimes it's more complicated than I wanted to play. I think this one's really solid, and it was pretty easy for me to figure out what was going on. It did not take me long to figure out how it works, and once I got the iconography down, it runs pretty quickly, and it's a solid challenge where I feel like I'm dealing with other people, but I don't have the overhead of dealing with their boards or anything like that. And I think that's very close to what I'm always looking for in a solo, so I think that is pretty darn well done. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first one is, as I've mentioned, there's a whole bunch of iconography, and you just gotta learn it. It's a lot of iconography to learn and understand, and once you get it, it's not a problem. But you gotta get it, and it can take time. The next thing I'm gonna say is, I wish there was more to the dice, because right now, all the dice are doing is blocking off spots. If you have a hammer, you can go to a space that needs a hammer, and there's nothing else to it. Now, that might be different in episode 2, but I'm only talking about episode 1 here. So when I do dice placement, I want those numbers to mean something, not just, well, you can't go here. And so for me, that's a little bit of a miss. The other thing that I'm going to say is, when you're playing multiplayer, and again, to be fair, I've only done this multi-handed myself, but it is a bit of co-opetition, and I do not like co-opetition in general. Now, this one is not terrible because there is no lose, right? There is no, well, we're all going to lose if something happens. This isn't a crisis management game. It just has, we're working together to keep the dinos out. And you can do your part and you can participate, and someone else might lose something, but you still will get something. So it's not fully there, but it has elements of that. It has elements of, you can very easily look and say, you know what? The good of the colony would be to do this thing, but I'm not going to do that because I want this player to be hurt. And that is absolutely in there. So depending on your group, that may or may not work for you. And then the only other thing I'm going to say is, going back around to the solo mode does, I think, kind of push you down the road towards needing to do more settlements. I think some of the other stuff that as I said, found a little more fun. But more importantly, I think that the game as a whole has less replay than I would like it to have unless you love it. Now that's a weird thing for me to say because the replay in this game is coming from mastery. Okay, I went this direction this game, but now I'm using this character with this special power, and so if I leverage that into doing this, and then I take this and move that over here, there is replay in that. But each game is going to be the same kind of game loop and cycle, and that is especially true if you're playing in the solo game, at least in my experience. So there you have it, folks. That is Perseverance Episode 1. Overall, I was pretty pleased with this. I didn't feel like this was going to be the type of game that I was going to really like. I was a little bit more interested in Episode 2, and there is kind of this cool Episode 1 and 2 kind of campaign type thing that you can do. But all in all, this one's actually pretty darn clever. It's pretty darn fun, and it is a very good challenge. I will say I have yet to win in the solo game. I came real close one game. It's a very good challenge. It's very hard, and it really promotes kind of a mastery of the system, which can be a lot of fun if that's what you're into. So there you have it, folks. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.